Joining me now is Nigerian Minister of Foreign Affairs Yusuf Tuggar. Foreign Minister, we appreciate you being here this morning. You posted a statement to X shortly after the strike saying that terrorist violence in any form, whether directed at Christians, Muslims, or other communities, remains an affront to Nigeria's values and to international peace and security. Foreign Minister, that is a different message than what we've heard from President Trump, who has really focused on the killing of Christians. What can you explain for our viewers is really happening on the ground here? Who's really being targeted?
No warning, no clear enemy. One story says faith, another says strategy, and the timeline tells a third story. All right, folks, let's slow this down calmly. If you've followed international news long enough, you've seen this pattern before: a dramatic headline, a powerful justification, and then a quieter explanation that lands a little later. This time, it plays out in a CNN interview after a U.S. strike connected to violence in Nigeria. What you're about to hear isn't just one message. It's several, layered on top of each other. In this breakdown, folks, you'll see the expectation, then the reality, and finally the receipts, past statements, timelines, and direct quotes, followed by how the public is reacting. Several clips and reactions come together here, and none of them tell the full story alone. If you appreciate calm breakdowns that let facts speak, please subscribe to Breaking Supporters. Now let's walk through it. Here's the expectation many people walked in with, folks. The framing was clear and confident. Violence in Nigeria described as religiously targeted. A focus on Christians being killed in record numbers. A promise that this would not be allowed to continue. That expectation sets a simple storyline. Identify victims. Identify villains. Take decisive action. In that frame, the solution feels moral, urgent, and narrowly defined. That's the expectation. But that was the expectation, folks. This is the reality. When Nigeria's foreign minister appeared on CNN, the framing shifted. He said the targets were terrorists, not a religious group. He emphasized Muslims, Christians, atheists, civilians, all affected. He described the violence as regional, not religious. West Africa, the Sahel, Lake Chad Basin. He confirmed the strike was coordinated. He detailed phone calls, 90 minutes with the U.S. Secretary of State, approval from Nigeria's president, another follow-up call, then the strike. And repeatedly, the same phrase came back. This is not about religion. Now let's lay out the receipts, folks, calmly, in order. First receipt should the timeline. The coordination didn't happen after the strike. It happened before. Multiple calls. Explicit approval. A shared operation. Second one is contrasting language. Earlier statements emphasized religious targeting. In the interview, the focus shifted to terrorism, regional instability, and geopolitics. Third one is historical context introduced on air. The foreign minister cited the collapse of Libya, the spread of weapons across borders, Sahel migration pressures, military takeovers in neighboring countries, the weakening of multinational counter-terrorism forces. Last but not least is policy history. He referenced restrictions on military equipment, then pointed out exceptions made years earlier. Aircraft sold, aircraft used, long before this moment. And when asked directly about U.S. troops on the ground, the answer wasn't yes. It wasn't no. It was operational, deferred to military leadership. These receipts don't accuse. They don't defend. They just sit there, lined up by time and by words. Public reaction, folks, has split in multiple directions. Some viewers say the religious framing finally brought attention to ignored violence. Others argue the interview exposed oversimplification, that the conflict can't be reduced to faith alone. Some focused on sovereignty, asking how coordinated strikes align with national independence. Others zeroed in on the regional explanation, saying it sounded more complex and more believable than the headlines. And plenty of people simply asked why these explanations weren't front and center from the beginning. So let me ask you folks, when different leaders describe the same conflict in different ways, which details matter most to you? How should the public weigh moral framing against regional and historical explanations? And when timelines come out after the fact, how much do they change your understanding of what already happened? This story isn't finished, folks. More statements will come, more context will surface, and more people will interpret the same events through different lenses. Here on Breaking Supporters, we don't rush to verdicts. We track what people expect, what actually happens, and what the receipts show when everything is placed side by side. If you value that kind of calm, evidence-driven breakdown, consider subscribing. We'll keep following the timeline, folks, as it continues to unfold.